What's up, guys? My name is Caleb. I am a cancer survivor, and my mother also has stage 4 colon cancer. Today I'm going to be bringing you guys a new series talking about my experience with cancer and what it's like to have a loved one that also has cancer. I believe this is important to talk about because if you haven't been through it, it's really hard to understand all of the emotional, physical, and mental struggles you go through when going through chemotherapy and having surgeries and just having cancer in general, because there's lots of anxieties and lots of crazy thoughts you have. And I think it's important to share so that people who haven't gone through it kind of get an idea of what it's like. I also believe this is important so that if you do happen to get diagnosed or somebody close to you does, you know what to expect instead of going in the dark and you have no idea what's going to happen and you just feel kind of lost. Because when my mom got diagnosed, that's how I felt. I had no idea what to expect, and luckily when I got diagnosed, since my mother had already gone through it, I kind of understood what it would be like. But most people don't have that, and they go in the dark, and it just makes your anxiety much worse than it would be if you knew what was going to happen. Now let me preface this by saying that every experience with cancer is different. Even if you have the same cancer, something with your treatment or what goes on, your symptoms and stuff like that, some things are going to be different. The way you feel might be different, your attitude might be different, and all sorts of stuff. But I'm hoping that there's enough similarities, and I believe there will be, that you can find something helpful in this video so that if you or somebody else gets diagnosed, or even if you don't get diagnosed, so that you at least understand more about cancer in general. So we're going to start this series by talking about my diagnosis and kind of the first few weeks surrounding that. So starting with the first symptom I had and kind of the shape I was in, to getting my first surgery and all of the thoughts that went into that and how it felt and kind of some details in there, as well with whenever they finally got the pathology back and told me that I had cancer. So my first symptom was a bit weird. The doctors still don't know why it worked like this exactly, but basically I was a very fit high schooler. I had been throwing out mulch in 105-degree heat, so I was very fit, and you wouldn't expect me to get cancer, of course, and that's part of the reason this was so unexpected. But anyways, I was sitting in my gaming chair one night, and I literally turned around just like this, and then turned back, and all of a sudden I just had this huge stabbing pain in my side. I had no idea what it was. It just came out of nowhere, but it literally felt like there was just knives sticking into my side. And basically, I sat there and I dealt with it for a little while. I couldn't lay back, and I was kind of getting worried about it at this point because I'd never had a pain like this, and it hurt more than anything I'd ever gone through. So I went to my parents' room and I said, hey, I just had this really bad pain in my side and it's not going away at all. It's only getting worse. So I think if it's not gone by morning, I need to go to the ER. Now this was kind of frightening to me because I have never been to the ER in my life up to that point. And I didn't know what to expect, and I had always been pretty healthy otherwise. I hardly even get sick, so I really didn't know what to expect. But anyways, I tried to sleep that night. It didn't go too well. I ended up, I was just going in and out of consciousness because, I had a lot of pain, so I couldn't actually just fall asleep and stay asleep. And anyways, the next morning came, and the pain had only got worse, so I went and told my dad, hey, we need to go to the ER. I don't know what this pain is, but it's definitely not good, and we have to get it checked out. So we headed to the ER, and we got there, and they did my vital signs and stuff like that, and they all came back normal, which was kind of weird because I was in so much pain. You'd think something would be obvious right away. But anyways, they sent me back for an x-ray, and whenever the doctor came back with the results, he looked a little confused and a little concerned. He said, there seems to be something in your chest. We don't really know what it is at this point. It just looks like a little blip. We don't know if it's congenital, like you were born with it, or whether it's something that grew there. So we need to take more scans before we say anything else. So then I went back and I had a CT scan, and I went back to the waiting room and I sat there, and then he came out and he said, well, first off, he looked very concerned at this point. He said, well, we're going to have to send you to a better hospital. And first off, that's not a good thing to start off on. Like, that's kind of frightening whenever they don't tell you what it is. They just immediately say, we're going to have to send you somewhere else. So what he said, you have a 10 centimeter tumor or some sort of mass inside your chest, next to your heart and your lungs. And we don't know what it is at this point. He said it may be a cyst, it could be a benign tumor, and it could also be cancer. And we're hoping that it's benign, but we need to send you somewhere else to get that checked out. So they put me in an ambulance and they sent me up to Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. Fantastic hospital, by the way. And they did more scans there. I was very anxious. I didn't know what to think. I was like, well, I just went from being a very healthy guy to like not knowing whether I'm gonna live because there's just something in my chest, and I really don't like that feeling. And what especially was weird is I had a tumor that was like the size of my fist. It was 10 centimeters, and I didn't know about it until literally the day before they found it. So I'm getting all these scans at the hospital at Vandy, and I'm just very anxious. I'm very worried. I'm really just confused. I don't know how to process all of this, because all I know is there's a tumor, there's a mass in my chest that's not supposed to be there. We don't know if it's cancer. We don't know if it's benign. We don't know how long it's been there. We don't know how it's going to affect me, or whether I'm going to have surgery or anything like that. Now, a little while after this, we had a cardiothoracic surgeon come in after I found a bed, because I was obviously going to have to stay overnight. So I went from the ER at Vandy up to an inpatient room in the cardiology department, I believe. And so we had a cardiothoracic surgeon come in, and she said, after looking at your scans, I think we're definitely going to have to do surgery. And there's no way it can be, it's going to be invasive. We're going to have to do a median sternotomy, which is open chest surgery, and take it out, because it's not in a good place. It's not in a place where if it grows or spreads anywhere, it would be very dangerous, because it's so close to so many blood vessels and my lungs and my heart. And so at this point, I found out that I'm going to have a major surgery. And not only is it a major surgery, but it's straight up open chest surgery. It's like open heart, but they're not taking out my heart. They're taking out, something that's really not supposed to be there, a 10 centimeter tumor, which is I still don't know how that got there. It really bothers me when I think about it. Anyways, moving on from here, they scheduled a surgery for 2 days later, which is very soon for a surgery. If you've ever had a surgery, you know that whenever you plan it, a lot of the times, unless it's like life-threatening, then it often will be like at least 2 weeks ahead, because surgeons are very busy and it's hard to fit them into the schedule. Especially with this doctor, because she does a lot of crazy heart surgeries, but she pushed me up to just 2 days later. Now, at this point, I had about 36 hours until the day of surgery. It was Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night-ish, by the time my surgeon came in and stuff like that. And I had been talking to doctors and stuff, and basically at this point we were just relaxing and sitting there trying to process what had just gone on. I just found out I had a tumor. I found out I'm going to have a major surgery. And, we're just very anxious. We didn't know what to feel because, my parents were there too, and they were worried. We have no idea what's going to happen. Will I have cancer? Am I going to be the second person in my immediate family to have cancer at the same time? And it's especially unusual at my age too. Because I'm healthy, so it's extra frightening, because it's not like I had a bunch of symptoms for a few months or something, and like we were kind of expecting to find something. It was literally just like out of nowhere, like lightning struck, and all of a sudden I have a tumor in my chest. So the next day, we had some people come visit me, and which is nice, because it helps ease the anxiety when people come visit, because you're not lost in your own head. It's not just you and your parents in a room and you guys have no idea what's going on. You have people to talk to, you have people to relax with, and it makes the atmosphere much better. So if you know anybody that's going through something like this, by all means, even if you don't go visit them in person, send them a text or something like that, and just let them know you're there. It really does help. I know it might be something like, yeah, you send messages to people and you're like, I'll be praying for you or something like that, and you think it doesn't really help a lot. But just knowing people are there supporting you is a big deal, and that's one of the things I really support. Don't be afraid to reach out, even if you don't know somebody very well. If you know they're going through an experience like this, by all means, reach out. It will mean a lot to them. So after these 2 nights of anxiety, I wake up the next morning on Thursday morning, and it's the day of my surgery. I'm supposed to have surgery in a few hours. I think I had like 2 hours until post-op, and then an hour after that, I was going to have surgery. My surgery was scheduled at 11 o'clock in the morning. Now 11 o'clock rolls around, and I haven't gone into pre-op or anything, and we found out that my surgeon actually had to go work on a little bitty baby. Like, I think it was premature or something like that. I'm not sure all the details, but I do know that she was doing open heart surgery on a baby that was like this big, that's wild. I don't even know how you work on that, because it's one thing if you're my size and everything's a little larger, but for a little baby, that is crazy, and mad respect to all of the surgeons out there that work on little bitty kids like that. As far as I know, the surgery was successful, which is fantastic, by the way. And so about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon rolls around, and I finally go into pre-op. They start giving me some medicines, and they prep me for surgery and kind of explain what's going to go on. And I'm really anxious at this point because I've never had a surgery in my life. Because remember, I had never been to the ER, and I was very fit. So it's a completely new experience to me. And, I sat there, and one of the things I did in this hour was I kind of had the realization, like, I have lots of anxieties and I need to try to calm down because I can't do anything about this situation. I'm not a surgeon, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not God. So I can't just, fix it. So I need to just sit here and realize the situation I'm in and just process it the best I can and go through it and kind of push through and try to stay strong. And, that's something that a lot of people told me too. But personally, I didn't want to press my anxieties on my family too much because, I already knew that they were super anxious and I wanted them to feel better, and that's something that a lot of people going through experiences like this, they struggle with. They struggle with pushing their feelings and stuff on their family because they know that their family's worrying about them. But don't be afraid to do that. Lean on the people around you, because I think that is a very important thing if you go through anything like this, because they want to be there for you and they'd rather you push your anxieties off onto them so that they can help you with it and they can talk you through it, and you can just bond together, and it will make you feel better. Like that's what they're there for. So don't be worried about leaning on other people, whether it's family or friends or other loved ones. So I was in pre-op, and I kind of had that realization, and eventually they started giving me some anesthetics and stuff, and I started getting a little bit sleepy, and they were rolling me back to the room where they were going to do my surgery. And all I remember is I was talking to all of the surgeons and stuff like that about what I was going to do for college. And then they were like, okay, so we're going to start the main anesthetic now, and you should fall asleep pretty soon. And, so I kind of forgot about my anxiety. I was having fun talking to all the surgeons, which is kind of funny. It's weird that like the most... The best part of the situation was the amount of happiness I had talking to all of these surgeons as I was being rolled on this metal table. So one of them was like, okay, so start counting down from 10. And I was like, okay, that's very short. I can't believe I'm going to fall asleep that fast, considering I'm very awake. And, next thing you know, I start counting down from 10, and I'm like staring at the wall, and all of a sudden I'm not staring at the wall, it's just dark, and then next thing you know, I'm waking up. My surgery happened. I think it was about 4.5 hours or something like that. And so I wake up. I'm very, very out of it. I'm not even completely awake. I have a tube down my throat. My throat feels dry. They had to intubate me to help with breathing and stuff like that, and make sure that I didn't vomit or something, and then it goes down my lungs. And that's basically the biggest worry whenever you're on anesthesia, is so you don't choke yourself, basically. And so once I was awake enough that they realized that, hey, this guy's awake, they took my tube out. And I just remember feeling very stiff and very confused about the situation I was in. I was like, okay, I know I had surgery, but I feel really weird, and it's hard for me to keep train of thought. And I just remember not being able to breathe very well. And then I look down and I see these three tubes about that big around coming out of my gut, like at the top of my abs, and they went all the way up into my chest, around my right lung and the side of my heart. And those were there to drain fluids out of my chest so that it will relieve my collapsed lungs, because that's one of the problems with cardiothoracic surgeries is they cause collapsed lungs because there's so much fluid that escapes from your body, and all these bodily fluids and blood and stuff in your chest causes your lungs to collapse. So there was a lot of pain because, first off, I have 3 tubes in my chest, which isn't comfortable at all, and that was one of the suckiest things of this entire experience. But on top of that, they messed with a lot of muscles. They cut through bone. My entire chest was like split open. And I was just very, very stiff, very, very in pain, and I was coming out of anesthesia, so that my anxiety is rising as I'm waking up and kind of realizing what situation I'm in. So after I was completely awake and they took my catheter out and stuff like that, which that was very painful, by the way. If you've never had one, I really hope you never have to. Anyways, they rolled me up to a room on the cardiology floor, and I think that was like the 5th floor or 3rd floor. I can't even remember now. I used to have all these floors memorized for what my stuff was at, whether it was oncology, cardiology, or ICU stuff. Anyways, so I got to my room. I met all my nurses for the night, and we had been talking and stuff like that because I was awake at this point, and I was really anxious, and I was just trying to stay relaxed, trying to keep myself from getting too into it and raising my anxiety, because I had a surgery. I need to try and stay calm and remember I had that realization that I can't do anything about it. It is in God's hands. It's in my doctor's hands, and we're gonna leave it there. Basically, what happened was they said, we ask people this, but most people don't do it. Do you want to try to stand up? Do you want to try to walk? And, at first I was like, how on earth am I supposed to stand up and walk whenever I had my chest sawed open and I've been on so much anesthesia? And, I was in a lot of pain. And so I was like, well, you know what? Let's try it. Let's do it. Let's try to get active as soon as we can. Okay? So I lean over the edge of the bed. I'm like, very slowly, and I'm like, I don't want to be like in one of those movies, like, if you've seen The Walking Dead, like whenever Rick wakes up in the beginning from his coma, and he stands up and he like falls over as soon as he stands up. I didn't want something like that to happen. So I stood up, and I was surprised I was able to hold myself up, even though I had to hang on to stuff with 2 hands, and I had nurses helping me. And I took a few steps and walked around the room a little bit. And, which was extra difficult because I had these tubes coming out of me that were draining into this big pump thing that was pumping juice out of my body, basically. And so one of the nurses was like carrying that around while I was walking around the room. And that only lasted a few minutes, and I went and sat back down and laid down. And I just remember being, I was uneasy this whole time, and I was just wondering whether I was going to have a cancer diagnosis, or whether they'd say it was benign, you can go home and just recover from the surgery. So it took about 2 days to come back from pathology or something like that, and I can't really remember exactly. I know I had surgery on Thursday, and I got out of the hospital on Monday. I think it was either Sunday or Saturday when I got diagnosed, because this is all a blur. There were so many feelings and so much went on in this time. And so I remember my cardiothoracic surgeon came and visited me and checked on how I was doing before I got diagnosed, before I actually saw a pathologist or anything like that. She asked how I was feeling and stuff like that. Great woman. These doctors are fantastic people. Honestly, it would have been such a different experience if doctors were just cold all the time and they didn't talk to you, and they basically checked to make sure you were alive and then left. But no, these doctors were fantastic. Anyways, that day finished. And I basically I went to sleep thinking, well, the pathology's got to be back soon. I'm sure they said it should be back in like 2 or 3 days. And so sure enough, I woke up the next day, and I had breakfast. It was hard for me to eat stuff, but I tried my best. Going through an experience like this kind of ruins your appetite, and I had a lot of nausea and some headaches and stuff like that on top of all my other pain. This afternoon, I can't remember which day it was, but it was either Saturday or Sunday. Some doctors came in. I had never met these doctors before except for my cardiologist, and they introduced themselves as one of them was a pathologist and one of them was an oncologist. Now, when they said that, my heart kind of dropped because my thought was, if it's not cancer, then why is there an oncologist in my room, since that's what they're for? And sure enough, they said, we don't have great news, but we do have some good news to go along with the bad news. Said, the bad news is you do have cancer. So right there, that's my diagnosis. I have cancer. I am sitting here, and I'll take a moment to explain this before I say the little bit of good news they had. Basically, I'm just sitting there, my heart drops, I'm just very, I don't even know how to describe the feeling. It's like I am very surprised and upset and sad and anxious all at the same time, but at the same time it's like nothing. Like I didn't know what to feel in that moment. And that's part of the reason it's so hard to talk about, is because a lot of these feelings is you don't know how to feel. You know what I'm saying? It just felt very, very sad. Like the atmosphere, it was like gravity had increased in this room after they said that, because my parents were in the corner, and they were sitting there, and I could tell they were really upset. I don't think my dad was crying. I think he teared up. I think my mother may have been crying, and I'm not sure. I was just I was in a daze at this point. I mean, I just got diagnosed with cancer, and now what they said is, we do have good news, and the good news is your cancer is fast growing. It's a germ cell tumor. Germ cells grow really fast. If you want to know what kind of cancer this relates to, it's the same kind of cells from ovarian and testicular cancer, except mine was obviously nowhere near that area. And so they said fast-growing cancers also get affected by chemotherapy more, because the faster-growing cells also die faster. It kind of makes sense. It's hard to explain. But anyways, that's what they said. They said it's very treatable. It has a very, very high survival rate. And that was kind of a relief to me and my family, because, my mother did not have such a fortunate diagnosis. Stage 4 colon cancer is something you can't get rid of, and it's something that most people don't live very long with. Luckily, my mother has made it 3 years, because she got diagnosed like a year and a half before my diagnosis, and now we're like a year and a half or 2 after. So it's been over 3 years since she's been diagnosed, and she's doing very well. So my diagnosis, it sucks because I had cancer, but my prognosis, the way it would plan out, was very good. It was it went from we're just stuck in darkness to there actually is light at the end of the tunnel. The sun was starting to rise a little bit, but it was kind of stuck in that position. Like, I think there's light at the end of the tunnel, but I'm not sure yet. But we'll find out. So now I'm sitting here. I have cancer, and we know that it's easily treatable, but we don't know what's going to happen after that. And what they told me was, so we're going to have to do chemotherapy, and we're coming up with a plan right now, and we'll let you know what it is as soon as we can. But we're going to have to wait at least 3 weeks for you to recover from your surgery, because if we give you chemotherapy, it's so hard on your body, it's going to slow your healing, and we don't want to keep you from healing from your major surgery. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, so this is very similar to my mother's situation. I have a surgery, and in a few weeks, I'm going to have to start chemotherapy. And so we're anxious. We don't know what's going to go on and stuff like that. At this point, like, it is what it is. I have cancer. I haven't started treatment yet, and we just tried to worry as little as possible. And now on the physical side of things, I was very, very weak. It was hard for me to move. I like moving, like I remember like just moving my arms. It hurt so much because all of these muscles in my chest and shoulders and my oblique muscles on my side and my back and my abs, they were all super sore. And at this point, they had taken those tubes out, by the way, which was a blessing because, you know, walking around and sitting up with those tubes in my chest was also super, super painful. And even when it wasn't painful, it was just very uncomfortable because, you know, I have something in my chest that's not supposed to be there, almost like the tumor. But these were actually, I can actually feel these in my chest, unlike the tumor, because, you know, the tumor grew there slowly. These were just, I woke up and they were there. And, you know, you can feel them moving around and stuff like that. It's not a comfortable experience, so I really don't wish that upon anyone. But anyways, those next days went by, and now that I had my drainage tubes out, and I was in the clear, like I was stable, and I was able to walk around a little bit. Then they said, well, we can release you from the hospital now. We know what you have, and we know that you're in stable condition, and there's nothing else we can really do for you. So you can go home. And so Monday morning came around, and they got my discharge papers and everything like that. And my parents came, and they picked me up and took me home. They had to use a wheelchair to get me out of the hospital because it was a kind of long walk. But I tried to walk as much as I could because moving around in a situation like this, it helps your body heal. It helps your blood get flowing and all that stuff. And then from there, you know, I've been diagnosed with cancer. I've had my surgery. We're kind of like, we're chilling now. We don't have any more anxieties of like, we don't know what I have. Now it's what we're going to do about it. Okay. So we were just waiting on them to let us know what the plan for chemotherapy is. We just knew that it was going to be about 3 weeks until we started. Basically, from here, what happened is we're going to get into another little bit of a story, and this is probably going to be the last thing we do in this episode. And I know this is kind of a long episode, but I really wanted to give lots of details in this. We haven't even gotten to the chemotherapy part. This is just my diagnosis and my first surgery. What happened next is basically we decided, so we had a vacation plan for that Friday. So, you know, I got out of the hospital on Monday. Friday, we were going to go on vacation. And the doctor said that I could go. I need to be careful and I can't get in the ocean too much because I still have these open holes in my chest. The 3 holes from where the tubes were, they were open, like they were kind of scabbing over a little bit, but not quite. They were just kind of there. Also, that was really weird, by the way. I think they had stitches in them or something, or no, they were like glued. And that's it. No, they were just there. I just had holes there. With like they had what they had was that like butterfly tape stuff or something. They were basically taped shut with these little strips. But the thing is, after a few days, they started peeling off. You know, which they're supposed to as the body heals. Basically, they help pull the skin together, and then your skin starts healing, and then the skin finishes pulling itself together once those fall off. So Friday comes around, and you know, we head down to Florida, which is great. You know, that's going to be a great break from all of this whole mess that's going on. My whole family's going down. All of my siblings and their kids are going because we rented a beach house. And what happened was we were on our way down, and my mom wasn't feeling too great. It was just me, my mom, and my dad in this car, and we were going to stop halfway in like Dothan, Alabama, somewhere in there, to stay the night before we finished the drive. And my mom's hair, I noticed throughout the drive, her hair had been falling out way faster than normal. She was kind of being sluggish, and I was having to watch her because she seemed very sick. And well, what happened is we stopped for the night, and I woke up that next morning. My dad had left, which I assumed he had gone to get coffee and stuff like that. And my mom was sitting on the side of the bed, and I started falling back asleep after I woke up and looked around a little bit. And then all I hear is a thud. Now, this was the most frightening experience I have ever had. I just remember opening my eyes and popping up really fast. You know, I had surgery. If I'm popping up fast, something is wrong. And basically what happened is I stood up and I looked down, and my mom was laid up against the wall. her neck was bent sideways, and I could hear her breathing and like wheezing. And I genuinely thought my mother was literally dying right in front of me. And I was like, this, like, it's one of those things where you're like, how can all of this stuff be happening to me all at once? I get diagnosed with cancer. I have a major surgery. We decided to go on vacation, which is fantastic. And then my mom is dying right in front of me. It's still looking back on this. I mean, it was a scary experience, and we were just frightened. We were anxious. We didn't know what was going on. But anyways, I called 911 and called my dad, and they came, and they said that she needs to get fluids immediately. She was very dehydrated because she had been struggling to eat and drink for the past few days, and that's part of the reason we were worrying about her. And I was actually going to tell my dad, like, hey, we should get this checked out. I don't think mom's right. And then this happened, and it was just too late to do anything. So we took her to either an urgent care clinic or an ER. I can't remember. Basically, they took care of her. They gave her a bunch of fluids and said that's about all they can do until they figure out what it is. And so my dad and my mom forced me and my family to go all the way down to Florida and enjoy our vacation because it had already been paid for. And after the whole past few weeks, or the past week, you know, we all needed a break, and they knew that, so they sent us down. They said they'd be fine because we can't do anything while we're there, you know. So we all go to the beach, and we're very anxious, and we get frequent calls back from my family, and my mom seemed to be doing a little bit better and stuff like that. They said that she really should have died. Like those next 2 days or 3 days while we were on vacation, we kept getting calls, and they said it wasn't good. Like whatever it is, it's really bad. And what happened is my dad called, and he said they found out that what was making her so sick was the common cold. And the reason I want to include this is because when you're on chemotherapy, you're immunosuppressed. Your immune system doesn't work like it should, and it's very dangerous to be around sick people. In fact, you shouldn't be around sick people at all. And you know, right now we have coronavirus going around and stuff like that, and that's one of the huge worries about it. Is like if my mom got it, coronavirus would kill her. They found out my mom had the common cold, and she almost died. They said that this cold wasn't even bad enough that like you wouldn't even feel sick if you were a normal person. You might have a cough, you might have a little bit of a runny nose, and that's it. But my mom was laying in a hospital bed almost dying. So that's part of the reason I wanted to share this story. I know it makes this video a little bit longer. You know, it's a frightening experience in itself, but it's also something important for people to know whenever you're on chemotherapy. If you get sick, then you can die. It can be the most simple illness in the world, and it can kill you. Like that's just how it is. When your body can't protect itself, it doesn't matter if it's a common cold or whether it's strep throat or whether it's the flu, whatever it is, it can kill you. And I do have a few more experiences like this with myself in the future, and that'll be in my other episodes. But that's pretty much all I have for today. I'm going to be making more videos on this. Hopefully, I might upload a few per week, maybe 2 or 3 per week, and we'll see how it goes. It just depends on how long it takes me to make the videos, because right now I'm at like 40 minutes of recording, and it took me a long time to practice the intro because I seem to have forgotten English, and I struggle speaking and describing things. So, here we are. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you learned something from it. It does seem like there's probably going to be at least 6 or 7, if not 10 plus more videos of these. And we'll get to the chemotherapy, and we'll get to my second surgery and getting my port in and taken out and all that stuff. So if you learned something from this, please let me know. Leave that in the comments, and let me know if you want to hear anything specific about it, because this series is going to last a while, so I'll have time to answer questions in the next videos and stuff like that. So if you have any questions, by all means, just put them in the comments. I will answer them, whether it's in a video or in the comments or both. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.